Attention, cadets. Commander Velarax shouted, his purple skin flushing a deep indigo with exertion. Today we welcome our newest addition to the Galactic Defense Academy. Please give a proper Xanthurian salute to Cadet Alex Jackson from Earth. The way Velarax said Earth made it sound like he was describing some backwater swamp planet where the primary export was mud and disappointment. The commander's 4 eyes blinked in vertical succession, a clear sign of his skepticism. I watched from the back of the training hall as the human stepped forward. Compared to the other cadets, Alex Jackson looked soft. No armored exoskeleton like us Xanthurians, no reinforced bone structure like the Pavorians, no secondary backup organs like the Gresh. Just pink skin wrapped around what appeared to be a rather breakable skeletal system. Great. They sent us another squishy one, muttered Dren, my bunkmate, his antennae twitching with amusement. Remember the last human? Couldn't even survive basic gravity fluctuation tests without vomiting. That was 3 cycles ago, I whispered back. And to be fair, Instructor Morvac did crank it up to 11 just to see what would happen. Yeah, and what happened was a disgusting display of human digestive malfunction, Dren snickered, his mandibles clicking together in what passed for laughter among his species. Commander Velarax continued his introduction. Cadet Jackson comes to us with adequate recommendations from the Earth Military Academy. The Terran Alliance has requested that we, him, give the kid a shot, as they so eloquently phrased it. This elicited a wave of chittering and buzzing from the assembled cadets. Giving anyone a shot at the Galactic Defense Academy was practically unheard of. You either qualified or you didn't, and humans rarely qualified. Thank you, Commander, the human said, stepping forward with a bizarre expression that involved showing teeth. Apparently this was meant to be friendly rather than threatening, though many species in the room instinctively reached for their defensive posture. I'm honored to join the most prestigious military training facility in the 7 galaxies. I promise I won't let you down. Save your promises for after you survive your first training session, Cadet, Commander Velarax replied. Speaking of which, all cadets report to Training Arena B in 10 microcycles for enhanced combat simulation. Dismissed. As the assembly dispersed, I found myself walking near the human. Professional curiosity, I told myself. As a xenobiologist specializing in Class C carbon-based lifeforms, I couldn't help but analyze this specimen. Greetings, human Jackson, I said, attempting the Terran custom of verbal acknowledgement. I am Cadet Nax Tool of Xanthuria Prime. I will be observing your performance today. The human turned those strange, single-lidded eyes toward me. Just Alex is fine. And your Nax? Cadet Nax Tool, I corrected. Your species has a peculiar habit of abbreviating designations. We call them names, Alex replied with another tooth display. And yeah, we shorten them sometimes. It's friendly. Friendly, I repeated, letting my translator process the concept, an interesting priority during military training. Making allies is as important as identifying enemies, Alex said with a peculiar movement of the shoulders that my database identified as a shrug. At least that's what they taught us at Earth Military Academy. Before I could respond to this questionable tactical approach, Dren sidled up beside us, his 8 legs moving in perfect synchronization. So, human Jackson, he said, emphasizing the species designation in a way that even I recognized as deliberately discourteous, ready to wash out in record time. We've got a betting pool going. I've put my credits on you lasting 3 days. Some optimists think you might make it to 5. The human's face contorted briefly before settling into what appeared to be forced neutrality. What's the longest time anyone's bet on? Dren's compound eyes flickered with amusement. 2 weeks. Hezak's always been a dreamer. Put me down for graduation, Alex said, producing a small metallic disc that I recognized as Terran currency. And here's my buy-in. Dren nearly choked on his own mandible secretions. You honestly think you'll graduate? From GDA. A human, first time for everything, Alex replied. Besides, what's the point of showing up if you don't think you can make it? This philosophy was so fundamentally illogical that I nearly missed the announcement blaring over the communication system. All cadets report to Training Arena B immediately. Simulation commencing in 5 microcycles. Better hurry, human Jackson, Dren clicked, already scuttling toward the exit. Missing your first training session would be a disappointing way to lose your bet. The training arena was a massive hexagonal chamber with walls that could reconfigure to simulate various environments. Today, they had formed into the jagged terrain of Velarax Prime, a high-gravity mining colony known for its unstable crystal formations and toxic atmosphere. Holographic projections added atmospheric effects, while gravity manipulators had already increased the pull to 1.3 times galactic standard. I noticed the humans' movements immediately became more labored. Earth gravity was approximately 1.0 gs, meaning Alex was already carrying an additional 30% of body weight. Not an impossible adjustment, but certainly not comfortable. Cadets, barked Instructor Morvac, a hulking Pulvorian with reinforced plating across his torso and a notorious dislike for non-exoskeletal species. Today's exercise is simple: reach the summit, retrieve a target beacon, and return to base. First squad to complete the objective wins extra protein rations for a week. He gestured to the towering crystal formation in the center of the arena, its peak disappearing into the simulated toxic mist above. You will be divided into squads of 4, and to make things interesting. Morvac activated a control on his wrist, and the gravity suddenly lurched to 1.5 gs. Several cadets stumbled. The human's knees actually buckled momentarily before recovering. Conditions may change without warning. Morvac finished with what passed for a smile on his tusk-lined face. The instructor began calling out squad assignments. To my surprise and evident dismay, Dren and I were paired with the human and a Gresh named Palvik. Perfect, Dren muttered. We're saddled with the squishy. I'm right here, you know, Alex said, stretching in a way that looked painful. And unfortunately, you'll still be right here when the rest of us are halfway up that formation, Dren retorted. Palvik, a hulking mass of green muscular tissue with 4 arms and a perpetually nervous disposition, joined our huddle. We should establish a strategy that maximizes our differing physiological advantages, he suggested. Agreed, I said. Dren's climbing abilities make him ideal for the steeper sections. My exoskeleton provides protection against the falling crystal shards. Palvik's multiple limbs give him both strength and balance. And what about me? Alex asked. There was an awkward pause. You could wait at the base and cheer enthusiastically, Dren suggested. The human's face turned a darker pink, which my xenobiology training identified as either embarrassment or anger. Possibly both. I can climb, Alex insisted. And I'm lighter than any of you except maybe Dren. Being light isn't an advantage in increased gravity, I pointed out. Less mass to pull upward, Alex countered. Before we could continue this debate, Morvac's amplified voice cut through the arena. Begin simulation in 3, 2, 1. Commence. The arena erupted into activity as 20 squads of cadets began their ascent. Some took direct routes up the crystal formation, while others circled to find less vertical approaches. Crystal shards began falling, some naturally dislodged by climbers, others deliberately released by the simulation parameters. Our squad moved quickly at first, with Dren scuttling ahead to identify the best route. The formation was treacherous, sharp crystal edges that could slice through unprotected flesh, unstable sections that could collapse under weight, and occasional jets of simulated toxic gas that would trigger penalty symptoms in our health monitors if contacted. About a quarter of the way up, we encountered our first major obstacle, a nearly vertical face with few handholds, too smooth for easy climbing. We'll need to go around, Palvik suggested, already shuffling sideways to find another route. That'll add 10 minutes minimum. Dren clicked, his compound eyes scanning for alternatives. I can climb it, Alex said quietly. We all turned to stare at the human. No offense, squishy, Dren said, but if I can't climb that with 8 limbs designed for gripping, you certainly can't with your pathetic 5-fingered appendages. Alex didn't argue. Instead, the human approached the crystal wall, studied it for a moment, then did something completely unexpected. Using what appeared to be sheer upper body strength, Alex jumped up, grabbed a tiny handhold we hadn't even noticed, and began scaling the surface with remarkable efficiency. The movements weren't elegant or natural like Dren's climbing, but they were effective, a combination of strength, calculated risk, and what appeared to be complete disregard for personal safety. Well, Scratch my carapace, Dren muttered, mandibles slack with surprise. Fascinating, I added, genuinely impressed. Perhaps humans had some redeeming physical capabilities after all. Then disaster struck. About halfway up the vertical face, Alex reached for a crystal outcropping that looked solid but shattered under pressure. The human's right hand lost its grip, and for a heart-stopping moment, Alex dangled by just one hand, 15 meters above the arena floor. Palvik, get underneath to catch, I shouted, already moving into position myself. But before either of us could act, Alex had somehow regained grip with the free hand, found new perches for both feet, and continued climbing as if nothing had happened. Did you see that? Palvik gasped, all four of his arms gesturing in disbelief. Keep moving, Alex called down from above, already nearing the top of the vertical section. We're falling behind. We resumed our climb, now following the route the human was blazing. When we reached the top of the vertical face, we found Alex waiting, breathing heavily but otherwise appearing unfazed. How did you not fall? Dren demanded. Upper body strength. Alex replied. One of the few advantages of having to carry all your weight in a relatively dense muscle package. Before we could discuss further, Instructor Morvak's voice boomed across the arena, increasing simulation difficulty. The crystal formation beneath our feet trembled, and the gravity abruptly increased to 1.8 gs. Several cries echoed across the arena as cadets lost their footing. A Pelvorian from another squad went tumbling past us, their heavy body crashing through crystal outcroppings before the arena's safety fields engaged to prevent serious injury. I felt my own exoskeleton creaking under the increased pressure. Palvik had dropped all 6 limbs for stability, and even Dren was hunched lower to the ground. The human, despite now carrying nearly twice Earth's normal gravity, remained standing, though visibly straining. We need to keep moving, Alex said through gritted teeth. There are still 3 squads ahead of us. Are you insane? Dren clicked. Half the cadets are about to plummet to their doom, and you want to race ahead? That's kind of the point of the exercise, isn't it? Alex replied, already moving toward the next section of the climb. We followed, somewhat reluctantly, as the human picked a path upward that balanced risk with efficiency. 20 minutes later, we had passed 2 of the leading squads who had chosen more conservative routes. Only Squad 6 remained ahead of us, led by Krazak, a particularly aggressive Gresh who had been at the top of the combat rankings for 3 consecutive terms. They were already near the summit, just 50 meters from the beacon. We'll never catch them now, Palvik said, his usual pessimism amplified by exhaustion. Not with conventional climbing, Alex agreed, surveying the remaining route, but there's a shortcut. The human pointed to a narrow crystal chimney, a vertical shaft that cut through the formation and appeared to emerge just below the summit. It looked barely wide enough for even Dren's slender frame to squeeze through, let alone the rest of us. That's not a shortcut, that's a death trap, I stated flatly. The crystal edges alone would slice through unprotected tissue. My tissue isn't entirely unprotected, Alex replied, pulling out a pair of gloves from a utility pocket. A standard issue, but the human had apparently modified them with additional padding across the palms and fingers. Even if you make it through without being julienned, Dren argued, the shaft could collapse at any moment. And we can't follow you. You don't need to, Alex said. If I can get the beacon, we all win. Take the main route, and I'll meet you either at the top or back at base, whichever comes first. Before any of us could protest further, the human had slipped into the crystal chimney and begun ascending with alarming speed, using a technique that involved pressing against opposite walls and shuffling upward. Your species is insane, Dren called after Alex. So I've been told, came the echoing reply from inside the shaft. We continued our ascent via the main route, watching Squad 6 draw closer to the beacon. Krazak had just reached out to grab it when we heard a commotion from above. Somehow, impossibly, Alex had emerged from the crystal chimney just meters from the beacon and was lunging for it simultaneously with Krazak. The Gresh, startled by the human's sudden appearance, hesitated just long enough for Alex to snatch the beacon. Got it, Alex shouted down to us, waving the glowing device triumphantly. That's when we all heard the crack, a deep, resonating sound that echoed throughout the arena. The section of crystal where Alex was standing had fractured under the combined weight and stress. "Jump clear," I shouted, but it was too late. The crystal platform collapsed, sending both Alex and Krazak tumbling down in an avalanche of crystal shards. The Gresh managed to catch himself on an outcropping about 10 meters down, but the human fell further, bouncing off formations and disappearing into a cloud of crystal dust below. "Simulation paused for medical intervention," announced Morvac's voice, surprisingly concerned. The falling crystal shards froze in mid-air as the arena's emergency protocols engaged. "Alex," I called, already scrambling downward with Dren and Palvik close behind. We found the human about 30 meters below the summit, sprawled across a relatively flat section of crystal. Alex's training uniform was torn in several places, revealing cuts and what would surely become impressive bruises. What was most alarming, however, was the unnatural angle of the human's left arm. "Medical team to Section 4B. Morvac's voice commanded over the communication system. To our collective shock, Alex groaned, then sat up, still clutching the beacon in the uninjured right hand. Did we win?" the human asked, blinking dust from those strange single-lidded eyes. "Your arm is broken in at least 2 places, I informed Alex, my xenobiology training automatically assessing the damage. The human glanced at the clearly fractured limb, as if noticing it for the first time. "Oh yeah, that tracks. Hurts like hell. But we still have the beacon, right?" Dren's mandibles clicked rapidly in disbelief. "You just fell 30 meters through razor-sharp crystal formations, broke your arm, probably several ribs, and you're asking about the training exercise." "Well, yeah," Alex replied, attempting to stand up despite my restraining hand. "We worked hard for this. Seems a waste not to finish." "The simulation is paused," Palvik pointed out. "It's over." "Paused isn't the same as over," Alex argued, successfully getting to a standing position despite my protests. "And the medical team will just pump me full of painkillers and put on a temporary cast. We can still make it back to base. You are the strangest, most illogical species I have ever encountered," I said, genuinely perplexed. Alex actually laughed, though the sound was strained with pain. "Wait until you meet the rest of us." The medical team arrived moments later, a pair of Mellox physicians with their characteristic tentacle appendages ideal for simultaneously operating multiple medical devices. They hovered over Alex with scanners and diagnostic tools, chittering to each other in their native language, which even our advanced translators struggled to fully decipher. Multiple lacerations, 3 fractured ribs, dislocated shoulder, compound fracture of the radius and ulna, one of them announced in Galactic Standard. "Cadet requires immediate medical suspension and bone regeneration therapy." "No," Alex said firmly, causing both physicians to recoil in surprise. "Just stabilize it. I need to finish this exercise." The lead physician's skin shifted from yellow to a deep orange, indicating either concern or annoyance, possibly both. "That would be highly inadvisable, Cadet." "Bria." The shards of bone could shift and pierce surrounding tissue or blood vessels. "Then wrap it tight enough that they won't shift," Alex replied, staring down all 4 of the Mellox's eyes without blinking. I stepped forward, attempting reason where medical authority had failed. "Alex, this is absurd. The exercise is merely a training simulation. There will be others." "It's not about the exercise," Alex said, voice lowered. "It's about finishing what you start. No one's going to take humans seriously if I get carried off the field at the first broken bone." Dren's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of growing agitation. "No one's going to take humans seriously if you bleed out internally and expire during a basic training drill, either." The second physician was already applying a stabilizing gel to Alex's arm, seeming to understand this was a battle they wouldn't win. "We will apply a temporary bone fusion seal and pain suppressants, but you must report to medical immediately after the exercise." "Deal," Alex agreed, wincing as the gel hardened into a translucent cast around the injured arm. Instructor Morvac approached our group, his massive frame casting shadows across the crystalline surface. "Cadet Jackson, medical recommends your withdrawal from the exercise. Do you understand that continuing may exacerbate your injuries?" "Yes, sir," Alex replied, standing straighter despite the obvious pain. "And you still wish to continue?" "Yes, sir." Morvac's tusked face was impossible to read, but something in his posture changed, a subtle shift from skepticism to something that might have been respect. Very well. Simulation will resume in 30 seconds. All cadets, prepare to continue from current positions. Morvac turned away, then added over his shoulder, Squad 4 is currently in possession of the beacon. As the instructor moved away, I noticed several other cadets watching our group with newfound interest, especially Alex. Krazak, the Gresh who had nearly seized the beacon before Alex's dramatic intervention, was particularly focused on the human. I've never seen anyone stand up after a fall like that, Palvik commented, all four arms gesturing nervously. Most species would still be unconscious if not permanently damaged. Humans have dense bone structure and redundant circulatory pathways, I explained automatically, falling back on my xenobiological knowledge. But even so, this behavior is unusual. It's not unusual for us, Alex said, checking the beacon to ensure it was still functioning properly. In our historical military training, candidates would routinely continue exercises with injuries that would sideline other species. Broken bones, torn ligaments, exposure to extreme temperatures, it was expected that you'd push through. Dren's mandibles clicked in what I recognized as both disbelief and reluctant admiration. Your species deliberately injures itself as part of training. Not deliberately, Alex clarified. But when injuries happen, how you respond is part of what's being tested. Mental resilience, pain tolerance, determination. Simulation resuming in 5-4, Morvac's voice echoed through the arena. The frozen crystal shards shimmered back into motion, gravity returned to its punishing 1.8 GS, and our squad quickly huddled to plan our descent. We need to take the most direct route back, I said, plotting our course visually. Alex should be in the center of our formation for protection. Agreed, Palvik said, his four arms ready to provide support. I can manage, Alex insisted, though the human's face had paled considerably despite the pain suppressants. This isn't about proving your species' pain tolerance, Dren clicked irritably. It's about squad efficiency. We move faster if we support each other. For once, Alex didn't argue, allowing Palvik to take position on the left side where the injured arm was secured against the human's torso. Our descent began well enough. The route down was less technically challenging than the ascent, though gravity continued to make every movement taxing. Several competing squads were also making their way down, creating a dangerous traffic jam on certain sections. And about halfway down, Instructor Morvac decided to add another complication. Weather parameter activation, he announced gleefully. The simulated toxic atmosphere suddenly thickened, reducing visibility to mere meters. Worse, the crystal formation began to vibrate as programmed wind effects created treacherous conditions. Form a chain, I shouted over the howling simulation. Dren at front with his superior vision, then Alex with the beacon, Palvik, and I'll anchor the rear. We linked up quickly, Dren's multiple limbs finding secure footholds even in the reduced visibility. We made slow but steady progress until a violent tremor shook the entire formation. Seismic event simulation activated, Morvac announced, sounding far too pleased with himself. Does he ever get tired of throwing new disasters at us? Alex shouted, clinging to a crystal outcropping with the one good arm. Not in my experience. Dren called back. The quake intensified, dislodging large crystal formations above us. One massive shard broke free and plummeted toward our position. Incoming. I warned, pushing Palvik aside. The crystal crashed into our precarious perch, shattering the ledge where Alex had been standing. The human lost footing and slipped, dangling now by just the uninjured arm gripping Dren's lowest limb. Don't let go. Dren clicked frantically, his exoskeleton straining under the combined gravity and the weight of a human dangling from his leg. Wasn't planning on it. Alex grunted, still somehow maintaining hold of the beacon with the injured arm pressed against the torso. Palvik scrambled to help, extending his longest arm down toward the human. Grab on. I can pull you up. For a terrible moment it seemed Alex wouldn't be able to reach. Then, with a grunt of effort that must have been agonizing with the fractured ribs, the human swung slightly and caught Palvik's outstretched limb. Together we hauled Alex back onto what remained of the ledge. The human was breathing heavily, face contorted in pain as the movement had clearly strained the injured ribs and arm. "The medical gel is cracking," I observed with alarm, noting the thin fracture lines spreading across the translucent cast. "It'll hold," Alex insisted, though there was less certainty in the human's voice now. "We need to move faster," Dren urged, already plotting a new route. This whole section could collapse. We continued our descent with increased urgency. The simulated quake had affected other squads as well. We passed several cadets struggling with injuries or stuck on precarious outcroppings awaiting rescue. Training staff in hover platforms were extracting those in serious difficulty. No one offered to extract us, though. Either they hadn't noticed our situation, or more likely Instructor Morvac had specifically instructed them to let the squad with the injured human continue. When we were approximately 50 meters from the base, we encountered our final obstacle. The quake had opened a wide chasm between us and the finishing point, at least 3 meters across, and with a drop that disappeared into the swirling toxic mist below. "We'll have to go around," Palvik said, gesturing to a narrow ledge that circled to the right. "That adds another 10 minutes minimum," Dren objected. "Squad 6 is catching up fast." He pointed to where Krazak's team was descending rapidly on a parallel route. "I can jump it," Alex said quietly. All 3 of us turned to stare at the human. "You can't be serious," I said flatly. 3 meters isn't that far in normal gravity," Alex explained. "Even at 1.8 GS, I should be able to clear it, with broken ribs and a fractured arm." Dren's mandibles clicked in disbelief. The landing alone could puncture a lung. "I'll land on my right side," Alex said, as if this somehow resolved all concerns. "This has progressed beyond determination into suicidal behavior," I stated firmly. "As squad leader, I forbid this course of action." For a moment I thought the human would argue. Then Alex surprised me entirely. "You're right," the human conceded. "Too risky. But I have another idea." "Dren, how far can you jump with your leg structure?" Dren's compound eyes flickered as he assessed the gap, probably about 4 meters in this gravity. "But I can't carry you across." "You don't need to carry me," Alex said. "Just the beacon." Understanding dawned on me. "You want to pass the objective to Dren, who crosses and completes the mission for the squad." "Exactly," Alex nodded. "The rules don't specify that the same cadet who retrieves the beacon has to deliver it to base." It was a clever solution. Dren could easily make the jump, and our squad would still get credit for completing the objective. The only cost would be to the human's pride, and yet Alex had suggested it. "I'm impressed, Cadet Jackson," I said sincerely. "Tactical flexibility is as valuable as physical endurance." "Don't sound so surprised," Alex replied with a small tooth display. "Humans didn't get this far by being stupid. Well, not only by being stupid." Dren stepped forward. "Give me the beacon. I'll make sure we finish first." Alex handed over the glowing device, and Dren wasted no time. The arthropoid cadet backed up several paces, ran forward with surprising speed, and launched across the chasm. His 8 limbs sprawled in mid-air before landing securely on the other side, beacon clutched in one spindly appendage. "Go!" Alex shouted. "We'll take the long way around." Dren hesitated only briefly before scuttling toward the base at remarkable speed. The 3 of us took the longer route, moving as quickly as Alex's injuries would allow. By the time we reached the base, Dren was standing triumphantly beside Instructor Morvac, the beacon secured in the completion receptacle. "Squad 4 completes the objective," Morvac announced across the arena. Simulation concluded. As the gravity returned to standard levels and the crystal formations began retracting into the arena floor, cadets from other squads gathered around. Some looked impressed, others suspicious, and a few like Krazak openly hostile. The human didn't cross the finish line with the beacon, Krazak growled, his massive Gresh frame towering over Dren. They exploited a loophole. The objective was for the squad to retrieve and return the beacon, Morvac responded coolly. There was no requirement for the same cadet to perform both actions. In fact, Squad 4 demonstrated excellent tactical adaptation by recognizing their limitations and adjusting accordingly. This was high praise from Morvac, who rarely acknowledged good performance, much less commended it publicly. The medical team reappeared, clearly unhappy that their patient had spent the last hour engaging in strenuous physical activity with multiple fractures. They surrounded Alex immediately, scanner devices beeping with increased urgency. A medical bay. Now, the lead physician insisted, no room for negotiation in their tone. Just one moment, Alex said, turning to face our squad. Thank you all. Especially you, Dren. Quick thinking at the end there. Dren's mandibles clicked in what I recognized as embarrassment. It was your plan. I just had the legs for it. Squad 4, report for debriefing after medical evaluation, Morvac instructed. The rest of you, training analysis in Hall C in 30 minutes. As the medical team guided Alex away, I noticed something strange. The other cadets weren't dispersing immediately. Instead, many were watching the human with expressions ranging from curiosity to newfound respect. Even Krazak, despite his earlier objection, seemed to be reassessing his opinion. I don't understand your species at all, I told Alex quietly as we walked toward the exit. Beings with your level of injury would have accepted medical extraction immediately. It's not about the pain, Alex explained, wincing as the medical team adjusted the stabilizing field around the injured arm. It's about showing up for your team, proving you can be counted on when it matters. By nearly causing yourself additional serious injury. By showing I won't quit just because things get difficult, Alex corrected. In human military history, some of our most celebrated soldiers were those who continued fighting despite severe wounds. A strange thing to celebrate, I observed. Maybe, Alex conceded. But effective. Especially when you're a species without natural armor, extra limbs, redundant organs, or any of the other advantages most galactic species enjoy. We had to develop different strengths. I considered this as we reached the medical bay. Perhaps there was logic to the seemingly illogical human behavior after all. Their psychological resilience might indeed compensate for their physical vulnerabilities in certain situations. 2 days later, our squad gathered in the Academy's communal dining hall. Alex had been released from medical with a proper bone knitting treatment and reinforced support brace, though the human was under strict orders to avoid training for at least 7 days. The betting pool has been updated, Dren announced, sliding onto the bench beside me. No one's betting on less than 3 weeks for the human anymore. How flattering, Alex replied dryly, awkwardly manipulating eating utensils with the non-dominant hand. What's the longest bet now? Still graduation, Dren clicked. But there are 12 cadets on that bet now, not just one. I observed the dining hall with interest. The dynamics had shifted subtly but unmistakably. Where Alex had been ignored or openly mocked before, now cadets from various species were nodding in acknowledgement as they passed our table. A group of Pelvorians even invited the human to join their tactical analysis session later that day. You've made quite an impression, I commented. Getting injured and requiring rescue? Alex asked skeptically. Continuing despite injury, I corrected. Many species here value different forms of resilience. The Gresh admire physical power, the Xanthurians prize exoskeletal durability, the Pelvorians respect tactical superiority. And humans? Palvik asked, joining our table with a tray of nutrient cubes. Humans, I replied thoughtfully, appear to specialize in simply refusing to stay down. Alex laughed, then immediately regretted it, clutching at the still healing ribs. That's us in a nutshell. Too stubborn to know when we're beaten, a useful quality in certain circumstances, Dren admitted grudgingly. Like when your squad needs to complete an objective. Alex suggested with a sly-toothed display. Precisely, Dren agreed, mandibles clicking in amusement. Though perhaps next time, try not to demonstrate human resilience by falling 30 meters onto crystal formations. No promises, Alex replied, attempting to spear a protein cube and missing entirely. Though I might need some training on left-handed combat techniques in the meantime. I can assist with that, offered a deep voice from behind us. We turned to find Instructor Morvac standing there, his tusked face as inscrutable as ever. The Academy training program includes adaptation to physical limitations, Morvac continued. Those who have lost limbs or function must learn to compensate. Report to Training Arena D tomorrow at 0600 hours. But medical ordered rest for 7 days, I protested. For regular training, Morvac clarified, adaptation training is specifically designed for injured cadets. Unless Cadet Jackson feels incapable. Alex's face displayed that peculiar expression humans make when presented with a challenge they should probably decline but won't. "I'll be there, sir." As Morvac walked away, Dren's antennae twitched frantically. "You realize he's going to put you through exercises specifically designed to strain your injuries, right?" "Probably," Alex agreed, finally succeeding in spearing the protein cube. "But he's also offering valuable training most cadets don't get access to." "I don't understand humans at all," Pavlik said, shaking his massive head. "You actively seek out additional pain and difficulty." "Not exactly," Alex replied after swallowing the tasteless cube. "We seek growth, and we've learned that growth often comes through overcoming difficulty. Pain is just a side effect." I considered this philosophy as I observed the human struggling with basic dining functions, yet maintaining perfect composure. Perhaps there was something to be learned from this approach after all. "In that case," I said, making a decision, "I request permission to join you for adaptation training tomorrow." "Me too," Dren added unexpectedly. "Someone needs to make sure you don't break your other arm." "Count me in as well," Pavlik chimed in. 4 arms are better than 1, especially when that one is currently non-functional. Alex looked genuinely surprised. "You'd voluntarily subject yourselves to Morvac's special training just to help me?" "No," I corrected. "We're volunteering to learn valuable skills while simultaneously ensuring our squad remains functional. It's simply logical." But the truth was more complex than pure logic. In just 2 days, this strange, fragile, yet surprisingly resilient human had changed something fundamental about our squad dynamic. Whether Alex recognized it or not, we were no longer simply 4 cadets assigned to work together. We were becoming a team. "Well then," Alex said, raising a drinking vessel in an apparent human ritual gesture, "to Squad 4 and whatever painful lessons tomorrow brings." We all raised our vessels in response, even Dren, who typically avoided human customs on principle. To refusing to stay down, I added. Alex's tooth display widened into what I now recognized as a genuine smile. Humanity's specialty. As we completed the ritual by consuming our beverages, I made a mental note to update my xenobiology research on humans. Clearly, there was much more to this species than our databases suggested. Perhaps their place in the Galactic Defense Academy and the wider galactic community deserved reconsideration. After all, any species that could fall 30 meters, break multiple bones, and still complete the mission was one that warranted further study. And perhaps, just perhaps, one worth betting on to make it to graduation after all.